Hello and welcome to the lesson. Okay, we'll first read the passage together, then let us understand as to what the question requires of us. And then we'll go look at the options, okay? It's not a great idea to spend time reading the options first up, okay? So let's read what we have in the question. It says, which one of the following, so you have the options here, which one of the following most accurately expresses the main conclusion of the economist's argument? Okay, so you are required to find the main conclusion in this argument, right? You're looking for the main conclusion in the argument. That means you have to be particularly alert for finding out the main conclusion. Now, what is the main conclusion? The main conclusion is supposed to be something that gives you a kind of overview of the entire thing, okay? And it's not too brief, it's not too concise, and it gives you the main idea, okay? The other thing about the conclusion is that you'd find that in an argument, right? In an argument, the conclusion is generally indicated by words such as thus, therefore, so, etc. Or the other way in which you can have an argument's conclusion, right? The conclusion of an argument. The other way in which you can have that is when you see an opinion. Okay, so when you see an opinion, then also you know that you're looking for the conclusion. So let's read what is given to us here and, we'll pick our answer. Okay, so it says here that every business strives to increase its productivity, for this increases profits for the owners and the likelihood that the business will survive. Okay, it says that every business wants productivity. You can say it wants productivity. Now why? Because it helps increase profits for the owners and it also ensures the survival. Okay, so every business wants productivity. That's the first line. Next, it says, but not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to the business as a whole. Okay, so it says that, hey, if you do something something that increases productivity, so an increase in productivity does not mean that it's going to help the entire business. Let me get the spelling right. The business as a whole, right? So it's not going to help the business as a whole. So you can see from here that, hey, a business wants productivity, but increasing productivity, so efforts, so let's say you do something, an effort, that's what it is, you do something to increase productivity, that doesn't mean that it will also help the business as a whole. The next line here says that often attempts to increase productivity decrease the number of employees, which clearly harms the dismissed employees as well as the sense of security of the retained employees. So for example, it gives you an example here of what you can do, right? So all efforts, attempt, you see, what is an attempt? An attempt is something you're doing, an effort is something you're doing, okay? So let's look at this attempt here. It says that, let us say for the sake of productivity, you reduce the number of employees. Okay, this is what you've done. Now, this thing, it says, increases productivity, but it does not help the business as a whole. Okay, so the main point of this passage here, the main conclusion is the opinion, and you can find that in here. It says that not all efforts help the productivity as a whole. Okay, in the first line, now let's see this a little more clearly. I'm going to erase things off so that it's clear. Okay, now if you look at the first line, right, the first line the first sentence here tells you what businesses want. So it tells you that business wants productivity. Okay, a business wants productivity. It's giving you a fact. It's kind of like a premise, right? This is the premise of the argument. The next line you can see is like an opinion. It says that not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to the business as a whole. Now you can see here that this is an opinion, and therefore it's very likely for this to be the conclusion. Then what's the third line? The third line gives you an example, right? So it gives you an example of how this thing has happened, right? So this is the principle that, there are things you can do to increase productivity, but it may not help the business as a whole, and this is just an example, right? So the example obviously cannot be the main point. So the main point has to be that you may do something to increase productivity, but that may not help the business as a whole. Once you've understood this, okay, and that you know that the main conclusion lies in this line, picking the right answer isn't hard at all, okay? So, if you look at option B, you can actually find that it's so much similar to this line. You see here it says, some measures taken by a business to increase productivity fail to be beneficial to the business as a whole. Now you see, not all efforts has been replaced by some measures, which is almost the same, okay? And the rest of it, if you can see, is the same. Business as a whole, right? So this is the main conclusion and the answer.